Andrea, Anthea, thank you for your time and thank you for putting the freeze on ice. Anthea, first of all, ice.
Yep.
We all know about your journey and our viewers this afternoon are going to hear more about it.
Yep.
When you hear the word ice, before you even used it, what were your thoughts on the substance?
Didn't really know much about it. I had heard about the drug, obviously, just like we all hear about drugs out there. I just didn't have much knowledge on it. It just sort of crossed my path, and that's when I decided to try it. And then after that, I was hooked almost instantly. And yeah, that's how it happened. Basically, there was no thought behind that or what it was or what was in it. It was just that's what it was. You know.
Now, when you say hooked, how long a period for were you dependent on the drug?
8 years, so that was a pretty long time that I couldn't get out of it. I just needed it to survive, basically. It was something that I needed every day. It gave me energy, I couldn't function without it, and I was really addicted to it. It sort of just takes over everything, and you just stop caring about normal reality.
And just focusing on one thing.
Yeah, and it's just your next hit when you're going to get it again. And I think, getting deeper and deeper into that, I started to look for a much larger high. So I did use in different ways as well, which was even more intense. So, it was a high level of destruction, definitely.
We're going to get back to your story and your journey shortly, Anthea. But, Andrea, thank you for your time. And we're going from one story of ice to the other. We're going to be hearing the story of the user, but now we're talking to the founder of putting the freeze on ice. So what is your experience with the drug? And tell us a bit about how the foundation and the campaign came about.
Thank you, Simon. I myself am an ice addict as well. So AAIC was founded from my own personal experience on ice, and having been spared, my life having been spared from hell and destruction and death. I have been able to recover, and we've been able to implement what tried to kill and destroy us, to give back into the community with good and awareness and education, and ultimately helping people who are entrapped in addiction to create pathways into recovery.
Now, Anthea spoke about an 8-year fight at a minimum with the drug. What about yours?
That's not unusual, Simon. 8-10 years, even up to 20 years, where people are trying to escape that entrapment. For me, I was blessed that I went through that journey for 2 years, pretty harshly. I was using $500 a day in the peak of my habit, and destroyed my life really. Everything I owned. I smoked 3 houses, my Mercedes. I lost contact with my family and reality, and in a very dark place, spiraling down into a hell. That's all I can explain it. Yeah, and it was a very scary place to be because. Quite honestly, if it wasn't for the grace of God, I wouldn't be here today. I stopped breathing, polyusing, what they call polyusing, because like Anthea said, you're trying to get out of that depression, anxiety, psychosis, and that pipe isn't actually giving you that hit anymore. So you're introduced to other forms of drugs, and to be able to help, what you think is going to help you out, but it actually makes things worse. So you end up polyusing, and the ultimate, the end result of ice addiction really is you're going to have severe mental problems and health problems, the entrapment of prison and even death. That's what we see again and again in this so-called ice world that we call it. And our heart is to for people not to go there. They don't need to. Our message, Simon, is not even once, as you can see. It's not worth it. Self-destruction and the hell that most people don't come out of.
We've barely started the story, your journeys, and yet you're only 2 of a number of Australians that have flirted with the drug. In your opinion, how many Australians are using the product, and why does our country have such an insatiable appetite for the drug?
Well, let me tell you that we're 2 out of 100 that actually come out of ice addiction. 2% of people that embark in ice addiction actually come out the other side. And 2 out of a room of 100 right here, right now.
And what about the 98?
they don't come out, Simon, and the end result for that is mental health institutes, imprisonment and death. That's where we're going with the education in the schools. We talk to them about if you want to embark on this journey, this is the end result. It's a hamburger with a lot, Simon. You can't embark in ice addiction without the repercussions of that.
And we spoke about other Australians on the drug. Do we have an idea of a percentage of the population, and why is it so accessible to our community?
The stats and the research are not updated as much as we'd like it to be, because it's all based on self-reporting, Simon, and really I can tell you now that an ice addict or somebody in ice addiction does not expose that information freely. I don't know about you, but I was never called and asked whether I was on ice, and most people that I know are not. What we can tell you that is hard evidence statistics is that over a 6-year period there was a 480% increase in meth in the wastewater. That is hard evidence. 480% increase in 6 years. Now that is something that we can't escape, and that is the truth. And the number of teenagers using ice has actually tripled in the last couple of years. So they're alarming, stats for us, and we need to do something different, something radical. And we're proposing, the truth being exposed.
And Anthea, picking up on that, we're speaking about your journey.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the question is, you've hit rock bottom with your journey, and it's expanded to both of you in a moment, but what started getting you out of that cycle? And getting back to Andrea's point, what made you fortunate enough to be in that 2%?
I think just like Andrea said, thank God for God's grace. I think that that 2%, I think we're very blessed to come out of it. I do think it's a spiritual battle as much as anything as well. And I'm really fortunate to be where I am today, and I thank God for that every day, man, because I think truly I was desperate for help. I was really desperate for so long, and I did try rehabs. I tried so many things, and I just kept hitting a wall like there was no way out. I just kept going back to it, and I think just my whole heart is really crying out to God, and I truly believe that God put me where I am today.
And what was that moment? We're talking about an 8-year struggle.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that's needed help. What was that, the moment the penny dropped? And it would have been such a hard battle mentally and physically just to get out of that space and to be blessed where you are today.
Well, man, I've got to count my blessings, because over that time frame, I thought I was really lucky to be alive. So I just started to really vision myself in the next 10 years and what that would look like. Did I want to be where I was? Was I this person to begin with? Was I made for this? I wasn't born an addict, and I don't believe I'm going to die an addict. I think that we all have purpose and reason to be here. And I just truly believe that something was calling me out of it. God was calling me out of it, and He said, no, like you are worth something, and this is not the end. Because sometimes we can lose so much worth in ourselves. Being in that lifestyle, being involved in crime and all these things. You lose worth. You think society thinks of you a certain way as well. And being a part of this as well has given me something to give back to these kids, because I want them to know that they're worth it, and if they ever get lost, they need to know that there is direction, and they need purpose too, man. So
absolutely. And there's a clear point coming out of this discussion with both of your stories, and we're going to get to the campaign in a moment. But prior to the campaign, it's quite clear that this is an issue that for some reason whatsoever we are generally, as a society, sweeping under the carpet. And how did you find that, not only as a user, but now how you're finding it frustrated now that you are rehabilitated and wanting to change our nation's mentality that it's not okay to sweep this matter under the carpet?
That's right. That's exactly our point. And we need to do something radically different. Sweeping it under the carpet is not the answer. We're putting almost a blindfold on our nation and not exposing it for what it is. It is a poison. It is going to kill, steal and destroy your life.
Speaking of poison, I think of ice. I know it's bad for you. I wouldn't be able to tell you what substance or substances are in the product. We are dealing with poison. So to give the average Australian an idea of the composition of the drug, what chemicals or components are we dealing with?
Well, there's got Drano in it, battery acid, there's toilet cleaner, there's a number of chemicals in there that they mix all together that just fry your brain. So ultimately you wouldn't go drink some Drano, or that's just something you wouldn't do. But you know, when you're confronted with this drug, nobody tells you this. You don't have that wisdom, knowledge behind you to be like, oh, hang on a second, I've heard of that before, I'm not going to take it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know what it was. I just thought, you know, someone told me it was like speed, so I was like, oh cool, I'm going to try it. You know, and then boom, you know, once you've done it, you've done it. So,
and it's quite a difference when we see photos on, I know tobacco is an illegal substance, and you think, wow, the ramifications of it. But as you said, no one just points you to a supermarket aisle and pick these products off a shelf and go, right, here's the components of ice.
That's right, Simon. And the point that I often make is that when you're introduced to an ice pipe, it's a little clear glass pipe, and it looks very classy and generally introduced to you in you know, in a party or a classy environment. It doesn't come with a label with ingredients and a label with side effects. It doesn't. I didn't know either. I didn't know for 6 months what I was taking. You know, and most people that have come out of recovery have no idea until they see our program. I didn't know that these chemicals were in there. We wonder why we have, you know, problems with heart and vascular system and kidneys, and you can get an understanding of, you wouldn't drink acetone, would you, Simon? So that's what we're trying to awaken our community to and expose it for what it really is.
Completely admire just the strength and the courage that you have gone through. I'm sure every other Australian watching this interview will think exactly the same thing. You've gone and sought help. I'll start with you first, Anthea. But we've got a campaign that started, but there's another clear message coming out to me out of this review, that there's clearly not enough social support networks or systems in place for users or anyone wanting to do the right thing and get out of that vicious cycle.
The continued conversation that I have with government, Simon, is, you know, they often say to me, Andrea, how many more rehabs do we open? And Simon, that's exactly our point. Let's stop being reactive to a social problem that is an epidemic in our nation, and stop putting money and funding and effort into building another facility. Let's stop people getting on this drug. You know, we need education, awareness, and we need exposure in the true reality of what this drug's going to do. Let's put the money into stopping this epidemic from continuing instead of being reactive.
And a campaign is born, Stop the Freeze on Ice. And this is one of a number of events that your campaign are targeting across Australia. How did it come about?
AAIC was founded roughly 4.5 years ago. And it is in order to educate. I was first asked to talk in a school. I spoke to over 180 students in year 10, and I saw the impact of that, Simon, and as a consequence I had other people that had come into recovery and said, I want to do that too, and I said, fantastic, and it just evolved, you know, and before we knew it, we were opening offices in Victoria, in Sydney, in Adelaide, in Cairns. And, you know, apart from education...
Our nation's talking.
Absolutely. It needs that, you know. Our educators, like Anthea and myself and all the others that are in each state, apart from education, our hearts is to warn the next person, please don't touch this. And also, if you're out there and you're looking for recovery and you are in that place right now where you're contemplating change, you know, we want to help you. Because we were the people on the other side that were desperately looking to get out of this entrapment, and we want to buddy you. We want to be that person that we've been where you are and walk this way out of that entrapment.
And picking up on Andrea's story there, Anthea, you're speaking to schools on a constant basis, and we're targeting schools. So I suppose the frightening thing for me is, how young are we actually dealing with in our education system before? You know, I'd hate to think that we're talking year 7, year 8, where kids this young, juveniles, the whole world awaits them, that potentially could be putting poison literally in their brain at such a young age. Unfortunately, are you seeing this in schools as you're talking?
Yeah, well, and I've seen it outside of that too. You know, I think that they're using it younger and younger, and you see it. They do start with, say, marijuana, and then they go on to the
Escalate.
more harder. It escalates. It's more of an escalation they start drinking and then they start just moving up. And I think it's a form of being cool now, and that's what our media and society portrays to us. So that's what they think they need to be, instead of just being themselves and being unique. And yeah, it's sad, man, but I truly believe that there is hope, and I think that there's power in people and power in numbers and unity, and if we all combine together and speak and do something about it, there's more power in that than anything, you know.
And how rewarding has that journey been, speaking to schools or the broader community and opening up a discussion that this nation truly needs to have. How has it been?
It's been amazing. We've been really welcomed by many communities. Obviously not without a little bit of a fight, Simon, because you know, people are often concerned for change, you know, and sometimes people are quite confronted by the information we share, and can look at it like a bit of a scare tactic. It is scary information, Simon, but it's real, because this is the truth about ICE, and we're not, you know, facading it or masking it for anything else. When I spoke at the Australian New Zealand Addiction Conference, it was confronted as a scare tactic approach. And my message was, let's look at what has worked in our nation. And campaigns such as the drink driving campaign, was that scary? Absolutely, but we got results. We got reduction. You know, the smoking campaign, the anti-smoking campaign, again, we got reduction in youth smoking. The Grim Reaper campaign, we need something dramatic to happen.
And keep persisting with that journey. Absolutely, and this is so critical that we have this discussion. Keep opening up other doors to really drive down that level of change and stop where the addiction starts.
Yes.
And getting back to those conversations that you're having, I want to ask you a personal question. You're talking about an 8-year, up to 20-year fight with the drug. Do you ever stop and both think and pat yourselves on the back from time to time and think, wow, look how far I've come? That's the first point. And secondly, is there any temptation, or have you had any to just simply revert and go, you know what, I wouldn't mind touching it again, despite everything that you've gone through?
Oh, well, man, I think when you find for your life, like, those thoughts, for me, they're gone. To be quite honest, it's not about Anthea as much anymore in those selfish ways. I think I'm just more blessed and glad to have my family back, and to be able to just have those things I didn't have. They're truly the things that fulfill me. I missed out on a lot of those things for a long time, so I know that, you know, one touch of that pipe's going to lead to a whole lot of emptiness. So it's just not worth it. I see that so clearly now. Being in it, obviously I was really blinded, but for me, I've truly been set free from that. So I don't think about it. I actually think of it as the devil. So that helps me. Stay away from it even more, because it is. Yeah. So.
I can't tell you just how happy I am hearing that as a response.
Yeah.
And I can't even fathom the journey emotionally, everything that you've gone through. I just can't explain. I'm sure everyone watching this right now would be just so immensely proud of you, and I'm sure would want to hear your story in further detail. And we're going to get to that, how we can hear the story in further detail through the campaign, Put the Freeze. And speaking of the campaign, we're nationwide.
Correct.
We're running events, education systems, talking to schools. Give us a bit more information about the program and where we can get further information about it.
Absolutely. We will be holding a community forum within the next couple of months for Victoria, for Melbourne City. So keep your eyes on our website. You can get the details on www.australianantiicecampaign.org.au. And we do have a state office in Victoria, so we're doing some great work out in the country and regional areas at the moment, but we will be approaching the local schools. So you know, if you want to get in touch with us, there is an email us now, a tab on our website, and you'll be able to ask any information. We do have a live show as well on Facebook Live every Thursday night that I want to give a plug to, because I find that it's an important library for parents at home. If you don't have the opportunity to get your children educated today, because today is better than tomorrow, they need the information. They need to understand what this drug's going to do to them if they say yes to it. And so, I mean, we've got kids as young as 8 up in central North Queensland being introduced to this drug, which is very, very scary. Their brain's not even formed. So sitting your child on the couch on a Thursday night at 7 p.m. Queensland time and listening to a library of stories that we have that are there on YouTube called Let's Talk About Ice, and we are interviewing people who share their story and their journey and have come out the other end, and that's in the purpose of educating and raising awareness about this particular drug.
Andrea, that is on the Australian Anti-Ice YouTube channel?
Yes, and live on our Facebook page every Thursday night.
You know what the best thing about this conversation interview's been? We started in such a dark place and space, and I clearly just walk away not only enlightened that anything is possible in the world, but look collectively where you are now. Most probably, I'm safe to say, one of the best places you've ever been in your life.
Absolutely.
Ladies, I just want to say not only thank you for your time, thank you for your cause, and I am genuinely confident that in a couple of decades' time, the same process that went through drink driving, same-sex marriages, you can think of so many other nationwide issues which touch our heart. We're going to be coming back in decades' time knowing that so much of the reform started on the ground with people and Australians like you. So we thank you.
Thank you, Simon, for standing with us and helping us put the freeze on ice in our nation. Grateful.